Hi everybody! This video discusses your second major assignment for this class, which is a response paper about the novel Kindred. This assignment is a little bit different than the last response paper. In the last response paper, I asked you to select a passage, type it out, and then write about that passage. For this paper, I'm not asking you to select a specific passage or type that passage out. Instead, I'm asking you to pick a character from the novel and write a 2 to 3 page paper that discusses how that character is impacted by the institution of slavery. As with your last paper, though, you're welcome to build on any points that you made in earlier discussions or in your journal, or you can, of course, develop a new interpretation of a character that you haven't talked about before. The first thing that you'll need to do for this paper is select a character. I recommend that you choose a character that Dana has substantial interactions with over the course of the novel. Some of the characters that I recommend include Rufus, Kevin, Sarah, Carrie, Alice, or Nigel. You can also select other characters as well, but the more interactions that Dana has with the character, the more that you'll probably have to talk about in your paper. After you choose a character, you should spend some time thinking about how slavery has shaped that character's personality or experiences. And I'm asking you to focus in particular on the choices the character has made. Depending on the character, this may mean how they've responded to the experience of slavery, how they've responded to the experience of owning people, or how they've responded to finding themselves in a world in which slavery exists. I give you some questions to consider to help shape your analysis of these characters. Not all of these questions will be relevant to the character, but I think that they can form useful starting points for analyzing the character and beginning to develop an argument. So I'll go through each one of these questions. The first question is if you've chosen a character who's enslaved. So this would be a character who's a slave, somebody like Sarah or Alice or Carrie or Nigel. If you pick one of these characters, you can consider how the character has responded to their status as a slave. Have they tried to run away? If so, why? If not, why? And have they resisted their owner in any other ways? If you've chosen the character of Alice in particular, you may also consider her relationship with Rufus. Think about what choices she has when Rufus wants to have sex with her. Think about why she eventually stops resisting him, how she feels about sleeping with him. And another question to consider is if she ever truly consents to having sex with him, or if she's even capable of consenting to sex given her situation as his slave. If you've chosen a character who's a slave owner, such as Rufus, you can consider how the character uses their power over the people they own. How do they treat their slaves? What situations prompt them to sell their slaves? And what do these choices reveal about their values? If you choose the character of Rufus in particular, you can also consider his relationship with Alice or his relationship with Dana. How does his relationship with Alice or Dana change as he grows older? How does he respond when Alice or Dana refuses him something that he wants? And what does this reveal about his character? And then finally, if you've chosen the character of Kevin, who is someone who is white but is not a slave owner, you can consider how his experience with slavery shapes him. So how does he initially view slavery on the Whalen plantation when he first gets there? What experiences does he have after Dana leaves him? And how do these experiences change him? And how has he changed in response to those experiences when he's finally reunited with Dana? Once you've spent some time thinking about the character you've chosen, taking notes, and finding passages that can help you answer these questions, it's going to be time to actually write the paper. Like the last response paper, for this response paper, I'm not asking you to write a full formal essay that has a full introduction or a full conclusion. However, I do want your essay, once again, to have a clear thesis. And as with the last response paper, you can just put the thesis at the top of the paper. It should also present textual evidence. This means quotes and examples that support that thesis. Here I give you some example theses, one which is weak and one which is stronger. So the weak one is, in Kindred, the character of Sarah is affected by her status as a slave. This thesis tells me that you're talking about the character of Sarah, but it doesn't tell me anything more than that you're talking about the character of Sarah. It doesn't tell me what you want to say about Sarah or how she's actually been impacted by slavery or by her status as a slave. The second thesis I give you here is a little bit stronger. It says, in Kindred, the character of Sarah is essentially held hostage by Tom Whalen. Whalen has already sold 3 of her 4 children, and he can sell her remaining daughter, Carrie, if she does anything that displeases him. This thesis is a lot more specific. It tells me as a reader that the writer is talking about the character of Sarah. It also tells me that about her relationship with Tom Whalen and how she's basically sort of held hostage, and she can't really do anything to displease him for fear that she's going to lose her daughter, Carrie. And it also provides a little bit of background about how Tom Whalen's decision to sell her children earlier affected her and has shaped her fear that Whalen will do something with Carrie, and that she'll basically never be able to see Carrie again. So this second thesis is much stronger because it's detailed, it's specific, and it provides a roadmap for the paper. And as a reader, reading this, I know what your argument is, and I know what it is that you're going to be saying about the character of Sarah. Okay, and then finally, I'm going to talk once again just a little bit about the body of the paper. The rest of the paper should support and develop the thesis. This means that each paragraph should have a clear claim, which is presented in a topic sentence, and the rest of the paragraph should support or develop that claim. This means that in the rest of the paragraph, you present evidence, either examples or quotations, that support whatever claim you're making, and then you spend some time to explain how those quotations or examples support that claim. And as I say here, a general rule is that for every sentence that has a quotation or an example, you should probably include a sentence that explains the quotation or example and then connects it back to your topic sentence. What this means in practice is that you shouldn't have long block paragraphs that you don't spend a lot of time discussing or analyzing. So if you're going to present a long quotation, then you need to take the time to unpack that quotation and explain how it supports your argument and connect it back to your topic sentence and even back to your thesis. And then finally, I'm going to go over the general paper requirements. So as I said earlier, this should be 2 to 3 pages. It should be a minimum of 2 full pages, so not 1.5 pages. It should be formatted according to MLA style. This means typed in 12-point Times New Roman font, double-spaced, 1-inch margins on each side, a heading with the page number and your last name in the top right corner of each page, a heading in the top left corner of the first page that has your name, the instructor's name, the class, and the date. Quotations should be properly formatted and documented using parenthetical citations. And that handout on Blackboard, you can use that for this as well. And then finally, for this paper, I do want you to include a works cited page. And that works cited page should list Kindred, the novel that you're talking about, and then anything else that you happen to quote. You're certainly not required to quote anything else. I'm not expecting you or asking you to quote anything else. But if you do mention anything else, you need to cite that as well. And then finally, you should submit the paper to the Dropbox that will be in the week 5 folder on Blackboard. And the paper is going to be due on Tuesday, July 2nd. There's a typo in the slideshow that says both components, but for this paper, for this assignment, there's only one component, and that's due on Tuesday, July 2 to Blackboard. So let me know if you have any questions about this paper. I look forward to seeing what you have to say about Kindred and reading your guys' papers about it.